Ready, Chris?
I'm ready when you are. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are with Scotty Senton and his crazy 68 Chevelle. Screams Pro Street, screams power, screams fast. Scotty, tell us a little bit about the car.
Oh, thank you for having me on your channel. It's a 68 Chevelle Pro Street. I bought the car 9.5 years ago, almost 10 years ago, I figure. I bought the car because of the paint job, and it was tubbed when I bought it, but it didn't have no motor, no tranny, no diff, no interior, no nothing, no electronics, fuel system, nothing. I wanted something different and original, so I wanted to build something unique.
Awesome.
I changed everything on the car. The only thing that was original from what I bought is basically the paint job and it being tubbed.
Crazy, man.
Everything else is completely different.
We're gonna get into some of the other stuff, but first, let's look at what everybody wants to know, the engine.
It is a 606 cubic inch Big Block Chevy. It has a Dart Big M tall deck block. Deck height is 10-200. It's got a 4.5 inch Cali's Magnum crankshaft in it. The bore is 4.630 bore, which makes it a 606.
Right.
I also have the Cali's rods in the motor and also diamond pistons.
So
the compression ratio is 13.48 to 1.
this is 13 and a half, roughly 13 and a half to 1 compression.
You bet.
And you can run on pump. I can't wait for you to tell us about this because
All right.
holy cow. Continue.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, 13.48 to 1. The actual cylinder heads are made by a company called HRD out of the States, but they're no longer in business.
Sure.
So I was lucky to get one of the last cylinder heads that they made for me, so I was really grateful. The intake manifold is made by a company called HRE.
HRE?
Yes, they made the manifold for me. The actual carburetors are 1110 CFM Pro Systems Dominators, and I got 2 of them designed for tunnel ram.
Well, you need the air.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to the heads.
Sure.
How big are the valves?
The intake valve is 2.500, and the exhaust valve is 1980.
That's huge valves. Titanium, obviously.
Titanium, both intake and exhaust.
Right. And do you know how much these heads flow?
The actual heads flow 535 at 900 gross valve lift.
So they're basically a pro stock head.
They're basically a pro stock head, yeah.
Which
So,
it makes sense. I mean, when you've got this many cubic inches, it needs the air.
For sure.
And if you want to make big power, and we're talking over 1,000, which you're going to tell us in a second, but
in a second.
before you do, can you tell us how are you running that compression and on pump gas? So what's the secret?
Okay, so there's actually the water alcohol system that's in the trunk that goes forward, and it goes to the solenoid.
So you have a pump in the trunk, feeds that solenoid.
Correct, yeah. And then it goes to both carburetors. There's a plate under each carburetor.
Yeah.
And so when we dynoed the motor, I wanted to run that as well because it's a street car and I wanted to run with water alcohol. But I've made some couple changes since then.
Yeah.
So to go cruising on the street, I found that there's a single jet straight underneath the bottom of the manifold that works incredibly well. So I can't stand on it with that, but I can idle around, which is fine.
So you can cruise and idle.
Cruise and idle around. But now if I want to stand on it, I pull over and I unplug the solenoid right here and plug it into this guy.
Yeah.
And it sprays water alcohol under both carburetors.
And even with pump gas in your fuel tank,
you bet,
you can run that water alcohol injection and you can rip on it.
I can rip on it.
That's
you bet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, you got to tell us the horsepower.
Okay, so on race gas, made 1145, 906 torque.
Whew.
On pump gas with water alcohol, it made 1080, 864 torque.
Holy cow. Now you were telling me that you have changed the camshaft a little bit different because...
Okay, so we ran into some... Okay, the cylinder heads are extremely tall, and because like I also have the Jessel valve train, like the Jessel rocker arms, all that, we were breaking push rods.
Push rods or rockers?
Sorry, rocker arms. We were breaking rocker arms.
Okay.
We broke 6 rocker arms, and it gets
6
of them. Yeah, so they're like $250 American per.
Yeah.
So it gets expensive real quick. So we actually, like, I decided to downgrade the cam a bit. So I actually went like almost 100,000 smaller.
So what were you running before?
Over 950.
Valve lift.
Valve lift,
Yep.
and now it's like 850 on both intake and exhaust.
Wow.
So the exhaust ration's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Which works good, and The spring pressure is only 830 pounds open now.
So huge difference in spring pressure.
Huge difference in spring pressure. I'm not breaking Drivetrain components. I'm not chewing anything up.
Right.
And it lives.
So I think people need to understand that when we're talking about a big inch engine with huge camshaft, what are you running? 7,500 RPM, something like that?
Yep. Yeah, it actually makes peak horsepower at 72 to 7,300 roughly.
Yep.
But I usually go past that a little bit.
Sure.
And shift. And, yeah.
Naturally. But people need to understand that when you're running that much, I mean, heavy valves, even though they're titanium, that's a 250 valve. It's long, and that kind of RPM, that is brutal on valve trains. So
Yeah,
if you're going to sacrifice a little bit of power so it can live,
exactly,
it is worth it.
Yeah, because it was getting to the point where it was becoming really expensive just to go cruising on the street.
Yeah.
And it was getting to the point where I was getting mad and frustrated.
Right.
I'm just like, this is getting out of hand. So that's why we decided to go to a smaller camshaft, less spring pressure, and it lives. It isn't like a conventional big block Chevy cylinder head where it's got oil return lines or oil flow back in the block. With these cylinder heads, I had to drill in the front of each cylinder head and the back of each cylinder head for an oil return line to go back down the oil pan.
Right here.
Right here, yeah. So there's 4 of these lines, one on either side of the front and one at the back on both sides of the cylinder head.
That looks like an incredibly tight fit.
It was a nightmare to get the motor in with that in there.
No kidding.
Yeah, and this actual big line, because I got the Chevelle belt drive, they say that there's pressure buildup behind the belt.
Yep.
So you got to go from where basically the mechanical fuel pump goes onto the block right down there, and you vent it into your valve cover.
Okay, so that's not pulling vacuum from there?
It's pulling vacuum from here.
From that side. Okay.
From this side. So it pulls vacuum from this side and goes through the back pump and goes into the can here first. Then it goes through the system, and then it exits out of here.
Okay.
So another thing that was really challenging to do was to get an alternator on the front of the motor, because in a conventional big block Chevy, there's 3 bolt holes.
Yeah.
These cylinder heads don't have that. So I had to make a bracket and make a design to make this all work, that I can run an alternator.
What kind of radiator are we talking about?
It's basically a four core rad. And the car with both engine fans runs about 180 degrees.
Really?
Yeah, so the only thing that's kind of, on hot days it gets really hot in the car because of my exhaust system and the engine fans going, it really cooks inside the car.
Speaking of exhaust, what do you have?
They're Lemons headers with dual 4-inch exhaust with 4 mufflers on them.
4 mufflers, just to keep it quiet. Now, it's loud, but it's actually not that loud considering it's an 1100 horsepower big block Chevy.
For sure.
So I think the 4 mufflers are definitely working. I'd love to hear this thing without them, but oh my god, this thing would be crazy. But yeah, no, I think they work pretty good. And look at the tube size of these. I don't know what they are, but
it's a stepped header.
Wow.
Do you believe they're like 2.5-inch stepped headers?
Yeah.
Well, it goes from 2 3/8 to 2.5-inch. I do believe.
This hood, is it all fiberglass?
It is all fiberglass, and normally I don't run a hood, but I got pulled over, and apparently it's law, you got to run a hood in this city.
Okay.
No.
Okay, but you're saying it's not as light as...
It's not as light as you might think. The hood with the brackets...
And all the... Because it is a function, it's not just a clip-on hood.
It is a functioning hood, yes, and it weighs, with the brackets, just a hair under 50 pounds, like 49 and change.
Wow. Do you know the weight of the entire vehicle?
The weight of the car with me in it weighs 3,900 pounds.
I just remembered when I first met you, this car had plumbing for nitrous on it.
It did, yes.
And we can see some welding. What's going on?
All right, so way back when, we didn't know we had some vacuum leaks out of our runners, and I found that out over the course of the winter. So my younger brother and I, we went and got the manifold welded. So I took the nitrous system off. The motor is built for nitrous, that I can, I still have my fogger system at home.
Yep.
I just haven't put it on yet because we're just want to see what it'll do on the motor.
Right.
So yeah, so that's why if you look on the matter, they're all plugged off, and there's extra things that are
the extra weld is to fix the leaks.
Yes, you
okay.
bet.
And so you can remove those little plugs and then put the nitrous system back on.
I can put my fogger system back on. You bet. This is the '68 Chevelle, like it's got back seat, it's got the bench back seat, and it's got the bucket front seats.
Yep.
The actual console, there's a company out of Texas, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he makes consoles for 68 Chevelles. So I chose this one because of all the gauges and all the switches that I use for the Chevelle, and all the switches are basically for a certain support system for the car.
Okay.
Basically the motor, like whether it's fuel pumps or
yeah,
electric fans, water pump, all that.
So that whole console, that's pure function.
That is pure function, you betcha.
Gotcha. Okay, and
Every
obviously
switch.
it's caged, so it's certified to what, 850 or something?
Yes, the cage is certified 850.
Do all your windows and stuff work?
They do. All roll-up windows. Every window rolls up and it's all glass, like actual
Real glass.
real glass.
No Lexan.
No Lexan crap in the car, no. It's full weight, full interior.
As a pro street car, obviously you're running big fat tires.
Yes.
What are these?
These are a 33 by 21 and a half on a 15-inch rim.
And that's your street tire.
These are my street tires, yes.
When you go to the drag strip, you run a full-on slick.
I run a full-on slick with some different rims. The slicks are 34 inches tall by 15 by 15.
Right. Okay, so a little bit different size.
Yeah, a little taller and a little narrower.
Yeah, these sure look, the street tires, oh man, do they look good.
Yeah, I like the look of the street tires personally. The actual back of the car, it actually is a 9-inch Ford. It's been back halved, obviously, and it has a full seal spool. The axles are 40 gun drilled axles.
Oh, 40 spline, yep.
Yeah, 40 spline gun drilled axles, and it's also a ladder bar car.
Okay, so obviously it's built to go straight.
It's built to go straight. I don't go around corners very fast.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What kind of gears?
The gear ratio is 4.56.
Okay.
And the actual transmission is it's a turbo 400 with a reed case, fully built, and it's a 3-speed. So and it also has the torque converter size is the stall is I do believe it's a 5100 stall. switch is a fuel pump, water pump, back pump, water alcohol, fan 1 and fan 2, spare. This is nitrous arm, nitrous fuel pump.
Perfect. Like you said, all business.
All business, yes.
Just coming off like a stop sign or whatever, you can feel the power immediately. Even though like you're not even close to even touching the throttle, but it's,
No, I'm like an 8 throttle.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you can feel it. And this is on just a single jet.
This is the single jet for just going cruising. Yes.
What would you say is the maximum amount of throttle or RPM that you can tap into when you're on that jet?
Me personally, I would not go any more than half throttle.
Half throttle?
That's actually pushing it. But
Okay. In terms of comfort and like ride quality, it's pretty darn good.
it's not too bad.
Like, we don't have the best roads in the world, and this is nice. What I love about your car is that, I was telling you this earlier, it doesn't matter if you're from the side, the back, the front, it rumbles no matter what. Like,
Yeah.
and a really nice, deep, throaty rumble. It's
It
nice.
does, yeah.
So when you're switching this over, all you're doing is just,
This guy right here, pushing this in, pulling this out.
yeah,
You can see it's got water alcohol. It's cold.
Okay.
So nice. I pull this guy off. Come on, get off there. It's a little hot. All right. I cap this, and then plug this guy into
and
this
those
guy.
don't leak or anything?
No, they don't.
That's awesome. So that's that easy.
That easy.
Now you're ready to do a rip.
I'm ready to do it.
Let's do a rip.
All right, let's do a little bit of a burnout here without bogging the motor down.
Sounds good.
Licks are warm. That's good. Ready, Chris?
I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, a little naughty.
That's awesome, man. Oh, you gotta drive this car, eh?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, buddy. Scotty, that was awesome. I knew this car was fast, but geez, that is a handful.
It is, yeah, especially on
Whew.
street tires. Well, street tires are like my slicks. They're the same compound, so it's should have heated them up a lot more, but it was fun.
I don't think it was gonna matter. I mean, this is a pretty dusty road or whatever, but man, you had to drive it. It was awesome. And I gotta ask you, have you ever been to the strip? I know you have, but what have you done?
Okay, so back in 2019, we took it to the drag strip. We were having problems launching the car. It would hiccup and fall flat on its face. So the one pass where it fell flat on its face, kept my foot stuck into it. It did a 10.05 at 145 miles an hour.
145 NA. So you're borderline a 9-second car, street car. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. And funny thing is, I was there that day and I got one of those passes on video. We're also going to try to come back here on the slicks if we can. So, but for today, thanks Scott for giving us a ride and tell us about the car, and yeah, we'll see what happens from here.
Awesome. Well, it was an honor being on your channel.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you asking me.
Bye.